Well, greetings, viewers and voyeurs. Got that funk here. I was reading my newspaper this morning, and I will link the relevant article in the description box down in Sarah Hahn's beard there. But yeah, I was reading an article in my newspaper today about how DC Comics, who run the Batman comic book franchise and also the graphic novels, are trying to branch out internationally and create new superheroes in different countries to broaden the franchise's appeal. And they've got a new superhero in France called Night Runner. And this superhero has kicked up a bit of a storm. Everyone's saying they're pandering to political correctness. And to some extent, I agree with that, but I don't see that as a bad thing necessarily. And let me tell you what the situation is. Basically, in France, there's going to be a new DC superhero, protege of Batman, called Night Runner. And the character who is Night Runner is a 22-year-old French Muslim of Algerian descent who comes from an area north of Paris where there were riots back in 2005. Okay? Now, right-wing bloggers all across America apparently who have found out about this are incensed by this, and they've made comments along the lines of, why couldn't they get a real French boy or girl to be a superhero? And, basically saying outright that Muslims can't have any true sense of justice, or Muslims aren't really French, even if they're born in France. Now, frankly, I think that's a no-brainer. If you're born in a country, you are a citizen of that country. It's not only the law, but that's just common sense. And I don't understand, especially from Americans' point of view, how people sort of think that you're not necessarily from a country that you're born in. I don't get that at all. But the real reason, I understand that people don't like political correctness most of the time. And, I sign up for that usually too. I do wish sometimes that people wouldn't be too concerned with political correctness. But there are obviously exceptions to that, and where I think it's a good idea. And I wouldn't even necessarily call this political correctness, but I guess, it is. But, like the current Batwoman is a lesbian, okay? And people said that was pandering to political correctness. But why should it be? Are you really saying, if you think it's just political correctness, are you really saying that a woman, lesbian, can't have a sense of justice, can't want to fight for what is right? That's retarded, right? So it's not necessarily pandering to political correctness to make Batwoman a lesbian. It's pandering to reality. And in reality, lesbians are part of our society. Same with Muslims, especially in France. Of all the countries in Europe, France has the highest proportion of Muslims. I believe the number is somewhere between 6% and 10% of the French population are Muslim. Okay? And, considering the high ratio compared to other European nations, yeah, sure, there's some ethnic tension in France as regards the Muslim community. Of course there is. However, to suggest that French Muslims aren't really French is outrageous. To suggest that Muslims or Algerians or whatever can't have a sense of justice is outrageous. Now, the reason I think it's a good thing that this sort of political correctness is going on as regards Night Runner, if you want to call it political correctness, is because and I think the real reason these right-wingers object, by the way, is not necessarily because he's not really a Frenchman or because he's a Muslim per se, but they don't want non-Muslim readers to be able to look up to a Muslim. That's what it's all about. That's what the objection is really about. Whether it's in the text or it's in the subtext, either way, they don't like the idea that a Muslim could be a hero. That's what's really pissing them off. But maybe not. Maybe that's just my opinion. But that is my opinion. What's your opinion? Let me know down below. I look forward to hearing what you got to say. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and may all your ups and downs be ups.